B-Bad and Brandon.
Finished a little bit of training, so having a good day.
What'd you train today, bro?
A little bit of everything.
Yep. Yes.
Because you're obviously we spoke with Max a couple of weeks ago, but what's the situation there now with you guys? Are you able to train, or are you still training outdoors?
Well, I train at my gym is in my garage, so
Sweet.
Sweet.
I've had zero disruption there the whole time.
Fuck, that's
There's no rules around you being allowed to train in your garage or having to wear a mask or anything like that, bro?
No.
Fuck, very lucky there.
What city are you guys in?
We're in Brisbane, up in Queensland.
Okay.
So I'm coaching out of Scotty Watson's gym, Valhalla.
All right.
So we're normal, man.
Yeah.
Like we're super lucky. Like all powerlifting comps are back on. We had a couple of big meets in the last 3 weeks, so it's been really good.
You can go everywhere, do everything, pretty much.
Nice.
Yeah.
How about, is Melbourne still kind of locked down, or?
They
came out, didn't they?
They just came out of another lockdown.
But they got some rules.
They had
like 5 days or some weird bullshit.
Yeah. But no one's holding their breath down there. They're probably going to be in another one soon.
Jeez.
Yeah, they seem to be not real good at it.
No, a lot of them apparently coming from like their own hotel quarantine like system that just keeps producing more and more cases. It's fucking weird.
Yeah, super strange. And then meanwhile, we can do everything. I was in a fucking traffic jam getting to the gym today.
Yeah. It's weird having cars back on the road after a lockdown.
Yeah, it's fucked.
But anyways, we will all this COVID chat. I feel like that's how every podcast starts now. When you have someone from overseas, you're just so interested to like, oh, what are you going through? But I would like to welcome to the podcast, Mr. Chad Wesley Smith. Welcome.
Gentlemen, thanks for having me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on Australia's best powerlifting podcast. Even though you do the voice intro for another Australian podcast that we don't need to talk about.
We don't talk about that.
I don't even know what it's called. I think it's
second best to platform podcast.
Yeah, second best. I think it's Speak Peak.
Speak Peak?
Yeah.
Speak.
Oh, that's the one. Right.
Oh,
right.
Must have got it wrong.
First question, how did you get roped into doing the voiceover for that?
I've been over to Australia 5 or 6 times now, and just had a lot of interaction with both John Sheridan and Thomas Lilly. Yeah. Even I've hung out with Thomas a couple times when he's come to California as well. So we're in Canberra, and they just asked me to do it. So I think I was one of the first episodes they did as well. So
it's a very
thing, you know.
I mean, you're like the Morgan Freeman in powerlifting that with that voice.
I've actually been trying to get real voice acting work now as a little side hobby.
Oh, nice.
Really? So
what sort of stuff have you been doing with it?
Well, nothing yet. I just sent like a little reel to one of my friend's wives is an actress, and she said that her agency had a whole department for it. So I was like, oh,
here we go.
Yeah.
Well, it is a beautiful voice.
It is. It's like it's very Barry White-esque.
Oh, yeah. All right, sir, mate. We have one plan for the show, and it's one question, and that is for you, 21 words, who you are and what you do. We do count the words and the sounds that you make. So if you burp or fart and and ah, we will count those as well. No pressure. He counts them because I'm no good at them.
Are you ready?
Does this count as part of the words?
Not yet. Look, to be honest, the competition for the best and worst isn't too crash hot here. Big dog competitor of yours, Luke Polly, was absolutely atrocious. So don't stress. Are you ready?
Got it. Yes.
Go.
Founder, Juggernaut Training Systems, multi-sport strength athlete, and coach / author / content creator. Extraordinaire.
Yeah, you got 5 words left.
Ooh, I don't even need them.
Snap! That was actually really good.
It's a mic drop right there.
That was really good. I'm not gonna lie to you. Eddie Cohen just gave us the finger when we asked that.
Yeah. Well,
sounds like him.
He needed no words.
Yeah.
Just a visual.
But man, obviously you've touched on it there. You're a multi-sport coach and athlete. Give us a brief history of all the sports you've dabbled in, because like a lot of our obviously audience and a lot of the people that follow you here know you as a powerlifter.
Yeah. So athletics, I mean, growing up, every sport as a kid, and then in high school, American football, track and field, college, track and field, shot put as my primary event. I threw 19.42 meters as a collegiate athlete, 20.00 meters as a post-collegiate. I was two-time collegiate national champion in a smaller division over here. Then transitioned to powerlifting. 411 squat in the 140s in wraps was then the American record. In 2011, I set that, which seems like a lifetime ago, and it's crazy to think that now there's like 220 and 100 kilo guys that can squat that.
Yeah.
And then as a super heavyweight, a 1,055 kilo total there in
Pro Raw 7.
Yeah, Pro Raw 7, circa Melbourne, Australia, the general Melbourne area. Took a brief departure from powerlifting in 2012 to compete in strongman, where I was the North American strongman national champion in 2012 in my fourth contest, which earned me my professional status in strongman. And kind of did both powerlifting and strongman for 6 or 8 months or something like that. Then after a back injury, went back to just powerlifting. That's where I made 440 kilo squat, 1,055 total. Did my last meet in October 2016, Big Dogs 1, where I actually had a kind of a bad meet. I went like 4 for 9, but I still made 1,030, something like that.
Foolish.
And since then, jiu-jitsu, pretty decent for the bad guys, for bad people at jiu-jitsu. For the second most beginner people, I'm one of the better ones of those.
Second most beginner.
Yeah,
I love it.
I love it how all your stories start with, and then I just became a national champion.
And then so it'll be national champion of second least, next beginner jiu-jitsu probably next to it, right?
One question I have definitely first up is, did you know Big Dogs 1 was going to be your last comp?
Marissa could attest to this, that I'd probably said that 4 meets in a row were going to be my last meet. I think Pro Raw 7 was going to be my last meet.
Yep.
Then I did Pro Raw 8 with no belt, no sleeves.
Yeah, you weren't competing that one.
My plan was to not compete. At Pro Raw 7, I had a good meet that was almost a great meet. I lost my balance right at the lockout with a 450 squat. Walked away from it a little bit hurt. I think a niggle is the word that you guys may use.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's healthy after meets where you make 1,050 kilo totals. Even if you're not hurt, you're not healthy.
Yeah.
I made a mistake in thinking, man, I was so close. I barely missed this squat. I didn't bench as well as I did in training. Like, it's right there. Let me try and turn around and do another meet. And I started training for the LA Fit Expo, which was about 10 weeks later. I got 2 or 3 good weeks of training in, and then everything just started to hurt. So as was a cycle that I went through several times in my powerlifting career. Turn around, try and do another meet fast. Things hurt. Then I'm like, fuck, this sucks. Powerlifting's stupid. I don't want to do it anymore. And so then take 3 to 6 months of very general training, a little powerlifting, a little strongman, a little sport performance kind of stuff, a little things that might look like some fat guy doing CrossFit. I was already committed to to come over for Pro Raw 8 to do seminars around that. So I showed up intentionally, no singlet, soft suit, no knee reps, no belts, because I was like, I'm not doing it. I don't want to do it. I don't want them to talk me into it. And so I let them talk me into it, but I was like, I'm not ready to squat in knee reps. I've only been squatting with no belt, no sleeves. Like, I think the heaviest I'd squatted was 700 or 320 kilos, something like that. I had only deadlifted 300 kilos for a triple in the previous 10 weeks. I think I'd done like 3 deadlift workouts.
Yep.
So, you know, I just borrowed a suit and or a soft suit and some socks and went for it. And I had my lifting shoes, and I actually deadlifted 365 kilos there with the belt, which shocked me a little bit and allowed me to beat my friend Dwayne Johnston beat him on body weight. Is about the only time in my life that I beat someone on body weight. So I thank Dwayne for that always. But yeah, you know, it had been even early in my powerlifting career. I only did powerlifting for 6 years.
Yep.
I think I did like 11 meets, and the whole time I was thinking, because I'd seen so many people. I guess I had no exposure to powerlifting before I started it. The first meet that I did was the first meet I'd ever been to. I didn't know anyone personally who did powerlifting. I'd talked to some people on the internet. I was sponsored by Elite FTS, but they had sponsored me when I was a shot putter.
Yep.
Like even this is how naive I was to what powerlifting was. That when I went to get my first singlet, I was asking the Elite FTS customer service person to send me what was actually a single ply squat suit.
Oh shit!
I was like, they look the same. They look the same to me. I didn't know what equipped powerlifting was. And I was like, well, this one's $250. It must be better than the one that's getting an expensive one. So that's how kind of naive I was to it. So I saw a lot of those Elite FTS guys, like bodies were just fucked up.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I don't want that to be me. I was coming up so fast in powerlifting. First meet, maybe a 930 kilo total, something like that. No, not quite. What's 900, 1800, 1890? No, like 890 kilo total. And the next meet was 980. Then the next meet I squatted 411, and it was just kind of like, well, you know, we'll just keep getting better. This is easy.
This is how it works, right?
Yeah.
To the moon.
Yeah. And so I figured, I was like, you know, I said, I'm going to do powerlifting. I want to get out when I'm 30 with no surgery scars.
Yeah.
No torn biceps, no blown pecs, no torn quads. So I did the meet shortly after my 30th birthday. I had, you know, a significant back injury in that time, but no surgery to go with it. So that was just sort of my plan the whole time. You know, I enjoyed powerlifting. I think I had kind of a conflicted relationship with it for myself a lot of times, that I enjoyed the mental challenge of it, of creating really effective programming. And I still enjoy that very much. As a lifter myself, I was probably much too focused on the outcome of my meet performance rather than sort of the day-to-day process and details and that kind of stuff. But coming from the sport background that I did, more dynamic sports like the shot put, even though the shot put's just one thing over and over, you know, it feels much more unique and dynamic day to day than let's squat, bench, and deadlift, squat, bench, and deadlift. So I really enjoyed strongman in the time that I was doing that, because it was more diverse. I just kind of figured after I'd had these herniated discs, I was like, powerlifting's a bit more controllable for me to come back to. So did that, but yeah, I just kind of felt like I've done this. I did powerlifting. I figured it probably wasn't particularly healthy for me to still be 160 to 170 kilos.
Yeah.
And to try, you know, if you're trying to make 1,100 kilo type of totals and push towards that, that's sort of what you got to do, unless you're, you know, one of very select aliens on this earth who can do it at 100 kilos. But yeah, so, you know, I feel content with what I did in powerlifting. So
I think from the outside perspective, it looks like he did powerlifting really well. I mean, a 1055 total as a super heavyweight is pretty even. Like, I know you said before, now there's 100 kilo blokes walking around doing that, but that's incredible.
Yeah, you must look back on that and be pretty proud of what you achieved in that time, that short time as well.
Yeah, I look at it from both perspectives, and this is the case for me for a lot of things, even work stuff. I'm so close to the day-to-day operations of Juggernaut that most of the time I just think, well, it should be bigger. This should be going better. This should be going better. And I lose, where someone else on the outside is like, oh my gosh, just 10 years this company's grown so much, it's great. I probably look at my powerlifting the same way. I focus much more on, man, if I don't stumble with that 450 squat, if I don't, the 4 big dogs, I'd torn my quad, my last squat workout, like in the muscle belly though, not at the tendons.
Yeah.
So it was a manageable thing. Best squat training I'd ever had in my life. 425 kilos in sleeves. And so my best squat in sleeves before that training cycle was 390 kilos.
Oh, Jesus.
And I went on to squat 440 in wraps at the meet. This time I'd done 420 in sleeves, 435. I attempted 435 in training. My last squat workout, we were in Atlanta, so other side of the US, for USAPL Nationals for Marissa to lift. And I had my last squat workout to do over there, 2 weeks out, 2.5 weeks out, something like that. And I'm in this gym and there's all the people from USAPL around, like kind of the training hall type of thing. And I'm getting in there and warming up, and I know to myself, oh man, I don't feel great. Like we flew 5 hours, not enough sleep, not everything's perfect. And I always kind of pride myself on, I didn't need everything to be perfect. I trained most of the time by myself. Corner, a lot of old videos, the corner of the CrossFit gym, power rack by myself, Texas power bar, great bar, but when you're squatting 400 kilos, it gets a bit whippy. Self handoffs, all this stuff. And, I kind of look down on people who they need everything. I need this. If it's not a combo rack, well, it's not calibrated plates. I can't do it. It's like, get the fuck out of here with that. So I made a mistake in sort of ignoring my own better judgment, where that day working up, I should have been like, let's just go to 400 or 410 or something and call it a day there. And I didn't. I went heavier than I needed to, because there's all these people, there, and they're, oh, can I take a picture with you? And they're filming the workout. I gotta do it, because that is, I think, a big reason why I'd always lift so much more in meets, is like I like to, I'm not a performer like a Brandon Allen, nipple kind of thing, but even in training, if I put the camera on, I lift better than with the camera off, and it's not like I'm thinking about it. It just happens. I threw the shot farther in meets than in practice all the time. So I think that I let that get the better of me, and I hurt my quad there. So I look at my powerlifting career and make one smarter decision here. My plan, if I would have been healthy, would have been like 455 on the second attempt squat, and that I think I was in shape to do, let's say 455, 260, 375, something like that, and have much bigger days. So sometimes I guess I look at it as what could have been, and the mistakes. I dwell on the mistakes more than the good stuff. But at the same time, when I see people, because I have to live on Throwback Thursday videos, when I was actually strong, and I'll see people comment, oh, this guy, he doesn't even lift anymore. Like why are people listening to him? And then I'm like, well, okay. Let me know when 440 kilo squats not good. Like I didn't fucking forget how to do that, how to get there. But
is it something you ever consider coming back to, or is it just like now the body's just in a different shape?
End of 2018, I had been doing jiu-jitsu for about a year. there, and I was training hard and feeling like, okay, I'm getting pretty strong. And I started to train for a meet. I didn't tell anyone about it, because basically exactly what happened was why I didn't tell anyone. What I thought was, I'm not going to, announce this or whatever until like the week of the meet, when I know I've made it through all the training, I'm ready to fight for whatever happens. So that's also what helped kind of spurred me to start losing weight. So I was about 160 kilos then, and I started dieting. I wanted to do the meet, no belt, no wraps, nothing. And I figured if I could do that in the 140s, I could do like a 950 kilo total, maybe like 365, 230, 365, somewhere in that ballpark. And so I'd gotten back, I'd squatted like, 335 for a double. Everything's going well. And I wanted to do LA Fit Expo, which is at the end of January. And about December 15th, I'm doing a squat workout, and it goes, and I finish, and I like feel something in my stomach. I was like, what's that? That didn't hurt, but I was like, that. I was just like diddling my own belly button as one does. There's something new there. That was an umbilical hernia.
Fuck.
Which, it wasn't something that was like, oh my God, this is so painful. So if I really wanted to, I probably could have gone and continued to train for a month more and do the meet. But I was just like, what's the point? I don't need my guts, squirting out.
Fuck that.
That's
a bad time.
They need to stay on the inside, bro.
Yeah. So it was something that was in my mind there. Now I wouldn't, I'll never say never, I guess, if I'm in the same kind of scenario and it's like, all right, I'm training hard and I feel strong and healthy, and there's a meet 6 weeks away and it sounds fun or something, then, maybe we ramp up for a little bit and do it. But the idea of being all in as a competitive powerlifter, again, trying to lift the biggest weights in the world, no, that's something that's behind me.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, like, you've done a lot in the sport, and I don't really think you have much left to prove. Like, and now as a coach, you've got some fucking strong athletes under Juggernaut. How did Juggernaut begin?
Yeah, so I started Juggernaut straight out of college.
Wow.
In May 2009, and then wrote what I thought was a business plan. In June 2009, got a private investment. July 2009, signed a lease to a warehouse. August 2009, and was open for business September 2009. So kind of a whirlwind. And everyone kept saying, "Oh, you're so brave to open a business in a recession." And I was like, "What the fuck does that mean?"
What's a recession? What do you mean?
Yeah, so ignorance was bliss in many regards there. And we opened as a sport performance gym.
Yeah, nice.
I was still throwing the shot put at the time, competing as a post-collegiate there that year. You couldn't have had a powerlifting gym, at least not as a successful business, particularly where I live in Southern California, where things are quite expensive, because CrossFit wasn't big enough to have pushed the awareness of powerlifting more and more. And I didn't have an interest in having a powerlifting gym. I was not a powerlifter at all at that point. So even a year later, when I did my first powerlifting meet, I did powerlifting, but I was the only one at the gym who did.
Yeah, wow.
We were coaching football players and jiu-jitsu athletes, MMA, soccer, volleyball.
It's a real mixed bag of people coming in there.
Yeah.
Different ages and stuff as well? Was it all sort of kids and stuff coming through, or?
Yeah, I mean, we probably had from 12, 13-year-old kids up to some professional MMA fighters, NFL players, kind of everything in between.
Sweet.
And, that's my real background is sport performance. More people know me for powerlifting now, but even some of the sport performance coaching I've done the last couple of years, that I could feel this impression of some of the people like, why did they get this powerlifter to do it?
Yep.
I realized, like, I'm not teaching football players how to be powerlifters. I'm trying to get jiu-jitsu guys to sumo deadlift and max out all the time on that. Like, that's I have a much deeper understanding of training than something like that. But you know, from there we just kept growing, more athletes. And then once I started doing more on the content side, wrote the first Juggernaut method ebook in late 2010, released that when there just wasn't a lot in the space. Like it was kind of 5-3-1 and Juggernaut as far as like powerlifting ebooks, even though it wasn't really a powerlifting book, but that was a part of it. But over the next couple of years, as we grew, as I wrote more, I started to see, all right, this is more lucrative. It's allows more freedom with my time to focus on the content part of things. So I scaled back the coaching, moved out. Our first lease was up, so we moved out of that first place, and I sublet to just coach football, just train football players and do powerlifting seminars and stuff, and started traveling a lot for that in 2012. And yeah, it just kept kind of writing more. People liked what we were doing, articles, videos, all that stuff. So it just continued to grow. You know, over the time I've gotten to coach all kinds of athletes. I think the people that I coach right now is probably a great snapshot of my coaching career. You know, I don't coach a ton of people personally right now, but you know, we have like someone like Marissa Inda, 5-time USAPL national champion, 2017 IPF world champion. You know, guys like Brandon Allen, you know, so those kind of people on the powerlifting side. I also coach a couple guys for Team USA bobsled.
Wow.
The #1 US hammer thrower in the world, professional MMA fighters, multiple time black belt world champions in jiu-jitsu, NFL players. So it's kind of all over the place. I feel very, very fortunate to have, you know, come up through my career in sports and coaching with exposure to a wide variety of coaches. That this was something that I became, you know, really interested in and passionate about when I was 14 years old. I started writing my own program, and the internet was much more sparse with information at that time.
Yeah. And you probably had to dial in and borrow the phone line.
I was coming to a lot of that information through talking to coaches at track meets or going to seminars like football coaching seminar conferences, which are like big conferences that they have here. And there'd be, you know, talks about play design and position coaching and strength and conditioning from, you know, maybe NFL strength and conditioning coach or college strength and conditioning coach. And I'm 18 or 19 years old going to that. And I'm definitely the youngest, you know, person there. So I think that always kind of stood out and maybe gave me, because I was never shy about, even from when I was 15, 16 years old, if I was at track meet and there was a college coach there, or when I was getting recruited to do track in college, I had as much or more interest in talking to the coaches about how to design my training than I did about, you know, certainly seeing the classrooms or talking to the academic advisors, that kind of thing. So, you know, and then at these conferences, because I was the youngest person, I think that a lot of the coaches, older coaches, would see that and be like, oh, you know, I'll take a little extra time to answer this guy's questions. So I came up through this, you know, more breadth of coaching, a lot of diversity in particularly the track and field world, which is so much the foundation of a lot of other training, because, you know, that is the highest output, most elite athletes in the world, the fastest, the most endurant, the most explosive. So yeah, I've just been very, very fortunate to be able to take that, my understanding of the principles that guide effective training, and understand how to apply them to these different situations.
And is that Juggernaut as a whole? Like, obviously you spoke about the principles there, but do you find yourself overlaying the Juggernaut principles across the different modalities of whatever sport it is? Because obviously, good friend of the show and general shit person, Gwayne, which you have coached in the past, obviously elite powerlifter. Do you apply the same principles with that across to your sports performance?
Yeah. So when you look at our book that I co-authored with Dr. Mike Isochel and Dr. James Hoffman, The Scientific Principles of Strength Training, as we go down the list, specificity, overload, fatigue management, SRA, variation, phase potentiation, individual differences, that first principle, specificity creates a framework under which or within which all other decisions are made. So once you can understand what specificity is, it's developing the underlying systems of sports success. If you can effectively identify what are the underlying systems of sporting success in these different, in the different sports, then that contextualizes what overload means for that athlete, how fatigue management needs to be implemented for that athlete, what the changes to SRA are going to be, what type of variation is necessary, how phasic structure changes, and then the individual differences part of things. That's driven so much of what we've done with the Juggernaut AI now is using those to individualize training. And I think if you look at it in the big picture, it's can seem really overwhelming and complex, but it comes down to as simple as an idea of when I, as a coach, am presented with two different athletes or a change in this current athlete, what decision would I make? What would I do when I have a short beginner female athlete versus a tall, super heavyweight male powerlifter? What are the implications of that? And a lot of people, I think that training differs by type, and it does not. It differs by magnitude. And when I would do powerlifting seminars in person, when that kind of thing was still allowed, and I had Marissa there with me, and it was very easy to make that contrast. She's 5 feet tall, 52 kilos. She's 10 years older than I am. Lifetime drug-free athlete. When I could stand her next to me, 6'1", 170 kilos, not lifetime drug-free athlete, and create the contrast visually to people. And most people's inclination is they need something that's totally different for each other to succeed in powerlifting. But if you were to actually look at our programs, the change is much more by degree. For sort of a tongue-in-cheek would be the dosage of the training that maybe she does a little bit more frequency, but it's not like 1 time to 5 times kind of thing, because she's so advanced too, but she's doing a couple more sets here and a little bit higher average intensity, and we tweak the exercise selection. So what we've done is just systematize all those decisions. So what would you do if you get a shorter person, or a person who doesn't get as much sleep, or someone who's more of a beginner or more advanced or weaker or stronger, they're cutting weight or they're gaining weight, and their meat is this far away or this far away or this far away. They're a weak point here, weak point there in the bench. All of those, hopefully for coaches, are going through some sort of logical process of they do this or they are this way, so I change this. And it's just taking all of those decisions at once to individualize things.
Yep. Yeah. And how much tweaking would you put on a program, say week to week, with someone like that? Are you sort of looking at how they're responding each week and mucking around it with each, making slight adjustments as you're going on the fly with it all?
Yeah. So the week to week adjustments, especially with someone who have been working with for a while, are probably very, very small, or an intra-session adjustment just based on someone's readiness.
Yep.
They got a bad night of sleep, they missed a meal, they feel great, whatever it is, plus 2.5 kilos, plus 5 kilos, plus a set, minus a set. That one looked a little bit rougher. Let's cut that off for the day.
Yep.
Wow, you're really killing it. Maybe a beginner athlete, they're getting those beginner gains. You can accelerate things a little bit more from week to week than you'd expect. But what we have with the Juggernaut AI does that at a much more advanced level than I actually could as an in-person coach, than really I think anyone could as an in-person coach, unless they're sitting next to you, journaling every day. They've got the spreadsheet out for each of you. All right, you slept this many hours. That's 1 hour less than normal, and all right, what's the trend of that? Because it's tracking all that stuff every single day. Plus, you tell it, my top set was this hard. it changes your back down set. If it was harder than expected, easier than expected, every back down set, if it's harder or easier than expected, it changes. The 2 in a row harder than expected. All right, cut it off. Up 2 in a row easier than suspected. Let's up the weight. Let's add another set. You feel great. So all of those things are just like quantifiable, logical decisions that a coach can make, should make. It just takes a lot of attention to detail, more so than most people could actually give.
And somehow you managed to put it all into an AI format.
How did that come about, bro? Was it just like, I need to multiply myself 1,000 million times, so this is the best way to do it? I'll build myself a robot.
Like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you follow like the Marvel movies, but every time I hear Juggernaut AI, I just think of Tony Stark's butler. So, how did you create that?
So the gist of the creation story came about from my co-creator Garrett Blevins. Had approached me with the idea, and he had a system for his own coaching called Skynet that was, even he would admit, to very rudimentary compared to the detail of coaching that I was using for people. So he had kind of put it in my head that this kind of thing could be made, but I didn't have a systematized process of how to make these adjustments for every single athlete everywhere on the spectrum. If you ask me, all right, what would you do with a beginner athlete or an intermediate or advanced or male or female, I could tell you the changes that were made, but not in a systematic adjustment. It was more, a combination of feel and logic. And simultaneously to this, we're doing a lot of seminars, myself, Dr. Mike, Dr. James, and we would talk about the volume landmarks, particularly MEV, minimum effective volume, and MRV, maximum recoverable volume. So I would lecture about program design and how to assess the volume needs of different athletes using the individual differences. And all right, females need more volume than males. Shorter athletes can tolerate more volume than taller athletes, lighter more than heavier, so on and so forth, and sort of explain that process. And then, at the end of 2 hours of lecturing, all right, do I have any questions? So what's my MRV? Tell me my number. And, understanding the why of the adjustments was not sufficient for people. So once I'd been asked that enough times, I just decided, I'm going to figure out the best way to give them a great estimation of their starting points.
Yep.
It still has to be refined for the individual, and in the Juggernaut AI system, that's what the readiness ratings do, what the performance assessments intra-session do, what the end of session check-in and end of week check-ins do. It refines it for truly that individual, but we can get a very, very close approximation based on gender, age, height, weight, strength, experience, sleep, diet, stress, historical workload, historical recovery ability, to where if someone had no idea and they're just like, all right, I'm going to find my MRV. This week I'm going to do 10 sets. The next week I'm going to do 12 sets, then 14 sets, then 16 sets, then 18 sets. Maybe, that process is going to take them multiple training cycles to start to refine what their number is. So I feel like now the system we have, and once I decided, like, all right, I might not be able to give them the exact number, but I'm going to create a process for each person by their type, their archetype of gender, age, height, weight, all that stuff, to have a much closer estimation. So now they know their target, is probably about 16 sets or something like that. Before, when it was just, their target was just a question mark.
Yep.
So yeah, that came about, and that's what most of the system is driven upon is MEV and MRV, and the relationship, both the absolute magnitude of those numbers and the relationship between them can inform so much about training. Because if, for example, if you have a big gap between those numbers, all right, you can use a linear periodization plan. If it's much closer, you need undulating because it's tougher to manage fatigue. That informs what the phasic structure, the proportion of hypertrophy to strength to peaking should be. So it was a really fun, challenging, like thought experiment to sit down and create and know. And this was something that I already do when making like a YouTube video or anything. I'm trying to anticipate every question that, YouTube shit talkers, I'm going to try and stump this guy that every question that they might have and answer it before they ask it.
Yep.
So in creating this, I was like, I have to, anytime someone asks, why did it give me this? Why did it do that? I have to be able to tell them the reason. And the reason needs to make sense and be justifiable within the scientific principles of strength training and all this other information I have out there. So yeah, it was kind of a very fun challenge, mental challenge to create.
What was the process like that? How long did something like that take to go from idea to launching it?
Garrett had already been working on his for, I want to say 2 years.
Yep.
And then from the start of he and I working together to the release of our 1.0 in October 2018.
Yep.
That was about 6 months of, 20 to 40 hours of work a week.
Yep.
And then since then, it's something that we've continued to refine. I mean, what we have now looks almost nothing like, what we had two and a half years ago. Just because we've had so much more data to input to that. We've had close to 10,000 users go through that. So to be able to look at what was successful, what wasn't successful, to, both just looking at their actual numbers and surveying the users, just feel like too much, too little, what do you want changed? We just, continually refining it and will continue to refine it. And now in with the mobile app, it's so much easier to cultivate that data and to employ like a data scientists to analyze that stuff, because that's not me. I'm not a data scientist. My degree is in history. So to bring in some people whose expertise is in that area to just continue to refine things.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It must have been a pretty proud moment once it launched, though, putting all that hard work in, and then maybe 8 weeks, 12 weeks later, some guys and girls start posting their first PRs and just saying #JTS app, thanks very much. Here's a 20 kilo PR. That must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, that is something I've really enjoyed in creating it. The goal was to create something that could be used by every level of lifter. Basically from about 6 months of experience with the squat, bench, and deadlift to the most elite athletes in the world. Though my expectation was not really that super elite lifters were going to use it, just because I figured that they were, they coach themselves or they had a personal coach or whatever. And then I started to see, I think we've had 5 guys squat 800 to 365 kilos. With it. 5 guys pull over 360 kilos with it. Several 2,000 plus pound totals. So it's been really cool to see super. I mean, we had a guy, a 220, 100 kilo class lifter pull 320 for 8 last week. Super strong lifters that are using it and making great progress in it. So, I'm really proud of that. And my biggest hope with it now is that, people begin to understand like that they deserve better, in the sense of, like I wrote the Juggernaut method in 2010, and people ask me, what should I do with the Juggernaut? Should I do the Juggernaut method? I'm like, no, why the fuck would you do this program I wrote 10 years ago? Like if people are telling me to do this static PDF program with fixed sets and reps that they wrote 10 years ago, that's just lazy. Like that's not adaptable to any individual. So all these PDF programs, whatever it is with a name on it, Juggernaut method, Cowboy method, programs that I've written that fall in this category too. If we're looking at all athletes within like a bell curve, all those programs are going to work effectively for some part of that bell curve because they have fixed sets and reps. They are a program. They are not programming, where what we have now, it's adjusting for everyone through all parts of that bell curve. So, my hope is that it pushes coaches to be like, I have to give the athletes more detail, more individualization, and not be just fucking lazy and say, well, everyone do 5x5. That's the best way. Everyone should do 5x5. Like, fuck that. So hopefully it pushes the coaches more because the athletes are realizing, me and my training partner are not the same. Or, we've had people write in the reviews of the AI, like, this has been so great. I'm 47-year-old, mom of 2, and I was doing these programs before, and I realized they were giving, I was getting the same program as a 25-year-old guy. Like, why would people do the same program? So for that to happen, sort of from a philosophical standpoint, and for people to understand that there is no such thing as a beginner program or an intermediate program or an advanced program, to do away with those ideas. All there is are principles of effective training, and your individual needs dictate how that's implemented. Everyone needs overload for a successful strength training program, but what overload means to me is different than what overload means to 19-year-old girl who's been lifting weights for 6 months, or 55-year-old guy who just started lifting 5 years ago and has this injury background, or me 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years from now or 10 years from now. And that's why I would do these seminars, and I've been fortunate to be in your great country and do a lot of seminars over there, and make jokes about being highly qualified and things like that. And I get this kind of question at seminars all the time, and it's so on the face simple, and it's not to pick on the person asking it, but they ask, how many times a week should I squat? And there are many coaches out there who are going to tell you 2 times a week, 3 times a week, whatever it is. They're giving a blanket answer, which is something that I refused 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I was like, no, I'm not fucking doing that. I know that's what people want. They want something simple. I said, but I would be doing a disservice to them, because I could look at the 30 or 50 people in the room and give 30 to 50 different answers. Or, even though some people might have the same best number, a different reason for it. And I was like, in 1 second, I could tell you 2 times a week is the best. But if you give me 10 minutes to explain why these different amounts of times could be the best, then you've got an understanding of the principles that are going to last you a lifetime of training, and give an answer for you, for your training partner, for you, now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you when you're 16 weeks out from a meet versus when you're 6 weeks out versus when you're 2 weeks out. And so that's really my hope, is to push people to that deeper understanding of what makes effective training, so we can everyone be having a more high level discussion about it, and that push things further and further.
So with everything you're doing now, would you say you're still targeting, I guess, or aiming towards more coaches and providing that education, or do you just go, nah, everyone needs to know this?
Both. I started making I've had my YouTube channel, I think, for 13 years or something like that. It used to just be like for my own training, and I coached high school football, and I would put those kids up there, and they're all pumped. They're like, oh, this got 700 views, I'm famous. Yep. And as it grew, I just started explaining how I write programs. And some people, I think, are like, oh, you're giving too much away for free on there or whatever, but that's just sort of how I did it. So whether that's for an athlete to understand why they're doing what they're doing, for that athlete to be able to go to whoever might be coaching them and ask, like, hey, why am I doing it this way? And maybe in that situation find out that their coach doesn't have a good answer for them, and that kind of be a red flag, or for coaches to be able to understand things more deeply. Yeah, it's just for people who want to understand how how to train better. In terms of like teaching coaches, and I guess that's kind of a conflicting thing for me because it's like, well, I sell coaching, automated coaching. So I don't want to, work myself out of a job kind of thing. Teach myself out of a job, but alas, I still put out that information. So, if someone wants to watch, I think there's about 1,600 videos on our page, and for just powerlifting program design, there's a good 10, 15 hours of really in-depth content. So, they can watch those. They can buy powerlifting program design manual. They can, trial and error through all of that with themselves or athletes that they coach, and gain a really deep understanding of how to do things. Or they could just, pay me $1 a day and use the robot. But
but what do you do to continue your own education moving forward? Like, obviously you've studied at college over there and really leading the front on everything you do at the moment. But what do you do for yourself?
The biggest thing for me now is, and I guess really what has been since I started Juggernaut, has been about interacting with other coaches, seeing who is being successful, who's doing things that I look to and am impressed by, which is a small number of people. But, I'm in a situation now where pretty much whoever that is, I can get direct access to them to just ask them, hey, can we jump on a call and explain this to me? So that's really what it is now. I'm get to be great friends with, people who have been extremely influential to me, like Max Ada, like Mike Israetel, James Hoffman, Dustin Perry, who's the San Francisco 49ers strength coach, one of my good friends, and talk to these high level coaches about what they're doing with their athletes, why they're doing it, small changes they're making. But at this point, like, the changes are so, one click of the dial in nature where, previously I think I'm known as like this outspoken West Side hater. I used to love West Side. That used to be how I trained all the athletes I coached.
Yep.
And the coach who's been most influential in my training, a coach named James Smith. My first interaction with James or around James was through a mutual friend of ours named Bob Eilenfeld. And Bob calls me on the phone one day, and Bob's from Long Island, which has a very distinct accent here, and is known for being very, very gruff, like brutally honest kind of people. And he's a New York, was an NYPD officer and all this sort of stuff. And so I'm talking to him, and he's like, oh yeah, I was talking to James Smith. He says you train like a fucking moron. I was more like a Boston accent, a shitty Long Island one. But I'm like, I hear that, I'm like, what? Like, what this? I was still throwing the shot put, and I was like, what the fuck does this guy know? He's never coached shot putter. But anyways, we get on a phone call later, and he starts to explain to me the idea, really the gist of it, where it was like the first kind of big light bulb for me. He's like, well, how much do you bench press? How much can you squat? He's like, can you bench press more than these guys who are throwing further than me? Yeah. Can you squat more? Yes. Can you jump higher? Yes. Can you run faster? Yes. Can you do just a standing throw at the shot put farther? Yes. Well, why can't you throw farther in the actual event?
Ouch.
I was like, well, the man's got a point. The first kind of light bulb for me to understand from a sport training standpoint that the weight room is general and the sport practice is specific or special practice, special development. And to start to understand that, so that, that was a big shift in thinking for me. And then, so once we're going down that road, all the changes since then have been more, minute in nature, but especially when you get to work with the kind of athletes I do now, whether they're playing in the NFL or getting ready to try out for the NFL Combine, or trying to get on the U.S. Olympic team for bobsled, or go to the Olympics with a hammer throw. When when 1/100th of a second or 1 centimeter or 1 meter, is the difference in 4 years of work, culminating to success or failure ultimately for them. Those very minute changes are significant.
Yeah, absolutely. With just curious, because you've worked with so many different disciplines of sport, has that given you the opportunity to try a lot of these different sports just to see what they're all about? Like, because I am curious, have you been in a bobsled? Is where I'm going with this question.
Next weekend, Marissa and I will go to Park City, Utah, to see the bobsled team trials for this next season.
Yep.
I don't know if they're going to let me get in one or not, but
so I would love to see you going down a bobsled track.
COVID restrictions may be derailing my chance to live out my cool runnings dreams. But we'll see. The jiu-jitsu came about from coaching jiu-jitsu guys, and I was fortunate to kind of be early into that world as a strength and conditioning coach back in even 2009, 2010.
Yep.
And have all these, Southern California is a real hub for jiu-jitsu. We have all these guys moving from Brazil here to open their schools and train.
Yep.
And it was, Coach Shed, come on, man, you got to train, you're going to smash everybody.
Yep.
And at the time, I didn't want to risk, hurting my elbow, shoulder, whatever, messing up my lifting. But when the time came, I got to reach back out to those guys who I hadn't talked to in a couple of years, as I'd really more just been in the powerlifting world. And it would be funny. I'd be at a jiu-jitsu tournament and talking to someone else, another white belt or something from our school, and someone would come up to me and, Coach Chad, what's up, man? How you doing? And it's like a 5-time black belt world champion, and this is a guy I've known for 10 years. These are the only people I knew in jiu-jitsu, really.
Yep.
Really high level.
All these greats.
And you see the look on the other white belt's face, like, why is this guy coming up to you and being so excited? And so that's been a ton of fun to get to be a beginner in that world. Hammer throw I've done before, but we'll see if I get to slide a little bit. Bobsled next week, but that would be fun.
That'd be cool. What was your because I've done a bit of jits myself as well, but what was your first experience as a big guy rolling around on those mats? Did you think you'd go well against the little guys, or did you get run around by the little guys?
I'd say my first experience was just being really out of breath. Getting my ass worn out in the warm-up. I showed up that first day, maybe 165 kilos.
Fuck.
And so that was, I think I did my first class about September 1st, 2017.
Yep.
11 months or so, 10 to 11 months after my last powerlifting meet. And I hadn't done a lot of training since then, not even powerlifting training or anything. I was maybe training like once or twice a week. I was just out of shape. I was, when I did big dogs, I was fat. I was just fucking huge, but I was strong as shit. Where now I was huge, but not strong as shit anymore. I mean, by my standards. So I was just so out of shape that anyone could have kicked my ass after about 30 seconds, I think. But yeah, there was plenty of humbling times with that. And even as I go on now, one of the guys I coached is named Otavio Sousa. He's a 4-time Pan Am champion, 3-time world champion at black belt, and he's about 5'6", 85 kilos. Just a stout little guy. And I was training with Otavio last year, and I was coaching football, so I'd show up to coach my football guys straight from training jiu-jitsu, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm fucking hurting. They're like, what you doing? I said, training jiu-jitsu. And I was like, this guy's just kicking my ass. They're like, well, how big is he? And like,
yo, no.
And they're like, what? How the fuck is that happening? And I was like, until you feel it, you don't know. Because some of these guys that they're just incredible, and like they get on once they're on top of you, they might only weigh 185, but it's like they're vacuum sealing themselves. I was like, you guys have some fucking switch. You're just turning up the gravity, because I could fucking swear you weigh 500 pounds right now. Yeah, so plenty of humbling times with that.
And does that help sort of fuel your sort of passion for training and competition, I guess, now that you're not really doing too much powerlifting anymore?
Yeah, I've just competed in things my whole life. I think, I started playing soccer when I was 4 years old, and when you're not supposed to keep score, the parents don't keep score, but I knew what the score was all the time. So I've always competed, and as soon as I started jiu-jitsu, I knew I'm doing this to compete in jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
So in 2019, I did the worlds. I was third at the worlds and third at the Pan Ams at blue belts, and lost to the guy who won in both of those. And training 6 days a week plus 3 or 4 extra strength and conditioning sessions, and I was I was as all in as I could go on that. I don't think I could have trained more because I was not in good enough shape like some of these guys train 12 sessions of jiu-jitsu a week, but I was doing as much as I could, and then Marissa would want to go for a hike, and my ankle hurts, or my buddies want to play golf, and I was like, my elbow got fucked up in training last night, and it was like I can't do anything else, besides jiu-jitsu when I was doing that. So I sort of forced, I guess, in 2020 to take a step back from that, because I had a match against Nsima Inyang, who you guys might know, super training guy.
Yep.
In February, and I ruptured a tendon in my thumb. Actually, in back-to-back weeks, I dislocated this pinky. That's as straight as it goes.
Fuck.
And this was one Saturday, and then the next Saturday I ruptured a tendon in my thumb. So they had to put a pin in this for 6 weeks, and then it was COVID, so the gym was closed, and then the gym went back up. I trained a little bit, then I got COVID, so I was out with that. So and all the tournaments were canceled anyway. So 2020 forced me to be more of a hobbyist.
Yep.
And I kind of found, I was like, I think that's more for me right now, because I was doing adult competition. So masters for jiu-jitsu starts at 30, because you get these guys, they're 20 years old from Brazil, but they've been training since they were 10, and they're adults or something. So like that's the real adult competition, is these guys have been training their whole lives.
That's a different blue belt at 20.
Sure, yeah, and maybe that's kind of more of a sandbagging blue belt. Maybe they're purple belts by then. But when the guy who I lost to at Worlds in 2019, the Russian guy, he had been a blue belt for 3 years. I had been jiu-jitsu for 2 years, so kind of a different thing. But now I'm just having fun doing whatever sounds fun to me. I'd say I'm a professional hobbyist. I do a little bit of lifting. I do a little bit of jiu-jitsu. I play some golf. I'm trying to get better in some way at all of those things all the time. But yeah, just having fun with stuff.
I love that. I like how you've gone through everything, and like at the end of it, you're like, you know what, I'm gonna kick back and have some fun with this.
And I feel like there might be more sport in you yet. There'll still be something else you'll get gravitated and start going all in on as well. Like bobsledding.
I'm trying to think exactly when it was. It would have been probably late 2018. I was like, oh yeah, Marissa and I had gone to Ireland to do a seminar, either early 2018, late 2017, somewhere around there. And we were given tickets to Ireland versus Fiji rugby.
Oh,
watched that, and I was like, man, like this is pretty cool. The college that I went to here, Cal Berkeley, by American standards, is like the #1 all-time rugby program. I knew a couple of guys on that team. The coach was someone I really respected. We'd done some podcasts with an awesome guy named Jack Clark. And so I was starting to think, I was like, rugby. I was like, I wonder if they got like, adult like club teams around here. So I go out and play like some just touch rugby and to kind of get the feel for it. And I was still big. I was still 150.
Fuck.
And it had just been so many years since I'd done a decent amount of running that, like, after the first day playing touch, I was like, man, my ankles hurt so bad, my knees hurt so bad. I was like, I don't know that I can lift. This is also the same time that I was trying to ramp it back up to the powerlifting meet. I don't know if I can do jiu-jitsu, try and play rugby, and and lift hard too. But yeah, I gave it a go for a couple weeks. But yeah, it's just I'm fortunate to have like a very diverse athletic background that I think has given me a good preparation to do a lot of stuff that, I was really big, kind of a smooth, coordinated runner and all that kind of stuff. So it's just been fun to kind of try whatever is out there. So now I'm just trying to do training that allows me to do whatever sounds fun.
I like that.
When I was 165 kilos, 170 kilos or something, and I remember this time being up in the mountains with some of my buddies, and they're going on that hike, and they're like, 180 pounds, 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, I might have a heart attack here, guys. Like, we're picking up basketball, and those just weren't really a possibility for a bit of time now there. And that stuff was just fun and things I enjoy doing. So.
Yeah, sick. What's body weight at the moment, bro?
Oh, I'm like 137 around there.
Yeah.
The COVID has not been great in that regard. I think I got the lowest I got training jiu-jitsu really hard and focusing on that was 127.
Oh, wow.
Which was, I was 125 when I was 17 years old. So I hadn't been under, I was 137, 138 when I did my first powerlifting meet in 2010. And that was the last time that I was 300 pounds or less, was 2010 until 2019. So, this is kind of easy, like about 137 range. Yep. That's just how much I weigh. Yep. Like I've just always been big. We'll see if the hard dieting stuff, like I was never interested in bodybuilding. I think most people, when they start lifting weights, bodybuilding is like their first influence. I never cared about that. That never appealed to me, probably because I was always like sort of chubby anyways. Just like husky is the term. Or like kid, when you're a kid and your mom's buying you jeans at the store, there's like slim and a husky, or slim, regular, and a husky section with like a bigger fitting ones. I was just always in the husky section. I was not like fat. I was just like stout.
Stout.
So I've never been interested in bodybuilding. And so like you see these guys, they finish powerlifting and they get like really ripped or whatever. I'm like, I don't really care about that.
Yes.
That's very fair, man.
Love it. Bro, mate, we have 10 questions for you. They are rapid fire. First thing that gets into that head of yours, what makes you unique?
Probably a lot of the things we talked about, just really like diverse background of sport and coaching, at least within the context of this stuff, in the context of normal life. Beautiful blue eyes, fantastic.
Yeah, they are lovely.
Yeah.
Smooth big man dance moves.
Who are the special people in your life?
My girlfriend, Melissa Inda, certainly. She always makes fun of me because I have best friends, and as a 34-year-old man, to say like, yeah, this is my best friend, and she thinks that that's funny for some reason. But I'm fortunate to have had some really great friends of my life. A guy named Nate Winkler, who I started Juggernaut with 11 going on 12 years ago.
Yeah,
wow. Now, so Marissa number one, but yeah, a lot of great relationships in my life. Side note on that, I know these are rapid fire, but if there's a book, one of my favorite books in the world, it's called Season of Life. It's kind of about that exact topic, about like masculinity and male friendships and stuff, as that's kind of like a weird subject for people, but a great book if people want to check it out.
Sick. What is something you're most proud of?
Most proud of taking the risk on myself to start a company, as a 22-year-old, just turned 23-year-old, and here we are 12 years later. If you would have asked me 12 years ago, would people in Australia even know my name? I would have said probably not, unless I did something really dumb. So even this kind of thing is a great success to me, that I got to travel all around the world and share what I love with people.
Absolutely, mate. If you could star in a movie and be anyone you could in that movie, who would it be and what movie?
For me to replace someone in the film, maybe like Brad Pitt in any of the Oceans 11, 12, 13.
Yeah, good pick.
I like that.
So fucking cool.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. I think you'd be a straight swap, to be honest.
Oh, thank you.
That voice and Baby Blues.
Oh. What is your most used emoji?
My most used emoji, probably the flames. Ooh. One. We try and do it. We gotta go gas ourselves up on Juggernaut posts, and when people on our team post stuff, so it's real easy. I just flame, boom.
Nice.
Let the algorithm do its work from there.
What was your favorite dinosaur as a kid?
T-Rex for sure. T-Rex.
Nice. If you could find out how and when you would die, would you?
No, I don't. I mean, I guess I could see the argument that's made for that, helping you live in the moment or make the most of things, but I'd rather not know.
Not for now. How old do you feel right now, this very second?
Yeah, I mean, 34, maybe 44 in body, 24 in spirit. Some those might flip. Those might flip flop depending on the day.
What was your favorite pet growing up?
My favorite pet? We had a dog, a golden retriever.
Name?
Lady.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what's the best thing that happened to you last week?
Best thing that happened to me last week. Had a great time at my best friend's son's 3rd birthday party. Nothing like, drinking 6 double IPAs at a 3-year-old's birthday. That was a good day.
That's a good day, yeah. And cake too, I hope.
That's the best thing I've heard this week.
Trying to get Marissa to go in the bounce house with a bunch of 3 to 5-year-olds and bully them in there, which she wasn't doing it, which was weird because normally she loves that. She's like, it's the only people smaller than her that she just picks on them in a playful way. But she'd go in there and they have a trampoline normally, and she double bounces the 3-year-old and knocks him over. I think he's mad and you're too big, get off of the trampoline. And she revels in that.
I'd like to see you on that tramp, bro.
If there's a weight rating for it, last 2019 into 2020 New Year's, we were in Mexico, Marissa and I, and we went on this like zip line stuff through the jungle. Right on the dot. I was maybe 2 kilos, depending on the time of day, underneath the weight limit.
Ooh. And
it was cool because at least I was under the limit. It was very rare in my life that if there is a weight limit for something that I'm under the weight limit. So, anytime I am, I try and take advantage.
How quick did that zip line go?
Faster than it was supposed to. So it's like the heavier you are, the faster you go and the lower you ride. So we'd be coming into like this platform, we're going from tree to tree in the jungle, and you're coming in on this next platform, and they're like, pull your legs up. And I swear I felt my ass just graze across one of these. One after that, the guy would start shaking the wire to slow me down more, so I'd start riding a little bit higher.
That's incredible.
Damn, love it.
Mate, I can't appreciate your time enough. We can't appreciate your time enough this morning. If people wanted to learn more about Juggernaut, yourself, we'll do that cheesy thing where you give yourself a shout out of where people can find you.
Yeah, jtsstrength.com, Juggernaut Training Systems YouTube. If you have a question about lifting, I probably have a video that addresses it in more depth than you're actually interested in knowing about. Juggernaut Training at Chad Wesley Smith on Instagram, and the Juggernaut AI app in the App Store and Google Play Store.
You have rehearsed that. That was very smooth.
Oh, this ain't my first rodeo here, boys.
Mate, I can't appreciate, as I said before, your time today. We really thank you, and this will be out in a couple of weeks. But till then, man, keep doing what you're doing, and I'm sure we'll get you back on in the future.
Be unreal.
My pleasure, guys.
Thanks, East, bro.
Thank you, brother.
Have a good day.
You too.